the DRC. So those cannot be referred to as non-nationals, as Rwandese. So that is number two. Number one.
Rwandans.
Yes. Number two, when you look at the agreements that took place at the time, for example, the Berlin Conference of 1884-85, it gave clear decisions on what actually their own territories would do. So the territories that were designed to deliver, for example, agricultural services, mining and what, that required labor, decisions were taken that labor importations would definitely ensue into the DRC. And I think that was King Leopold IV or something, some of the. So he was allowed by 1925 to import laborers. So people came from Rwanda, people came from Burundi. They are all Kinyarwanda speakers. That is 1925. Now that is in addition to those that were the subject of boundary demarcation. So that is now number two. Now those people from 1925 to date, how old would such a person be if they were alive to date? So we are dealing with the offsprings of such people. Now the 1960 Constitution of Congo cemented it. They even attempted to do certification, identification of persons, and generally declared all of them citizens of the Democratic Republic of Congo. But just like Honorable Semju was saying, we know that historically we would have, of course, some cataclysms of disconnect between the Banyarwanda, Kinyarwanda speakers of the time, and of course some of the tribes of the day, the Banyanga, the Bahunde. They would once in a while also develop some bit of cataclysm amongst themselves. But by the period of 1918 and 1931, an agreement was even arrived at by the colonial leaders of the time to appoint Banyarwanda chiefs in all, and what was actually the Masisi area of the time, which was definitely then divided into the Kivu areas. So what explains the activity of handing over leadership to Kinyarwanda speaking chiefs? It is because the population is there had the Kinyarwanda speaking entities. So what the leaders need to do, instead of course, the current president Tshisekedi telling us that these are not Congolese, look at what the former governments also had done. When Kabila entered into an agreement with the NCD, and I heard the honorable minister also speaking about it, the NCD that mysteriously then, of course, when they entered an agreement, it was on March 23rd, 2009, where they definitely then get the M23 nomenclature of their own outfit today. That is an agreement that was signed between Congolese, the Congolese government and the Congolese. The Congolese that were now, because some of the groups, by the way, that emanated, that I would not say were the subject of government, were the Mai Mai. Those ones now were the offsprings of the disagreement, disunity within and amongst populations that again culminated into fighting forces, but also substantive chiefs that would be interested in mining areas would also develop some youth brigades of some sort that mysteriously culminated into fighting forces. So there is a multiplicity of forces, and the minister has just explained. What we are dealing with now is a front. And this front has the capacity to take over government. What they actually are waiting on and fear is, first of all, the backlash of the international community, and the backlash that would emanate from those that already have a multiplicity of concessions for minerals.
Interests.
So interests. So the penny holders, Belgium, France, and companies that come from Canada, and because the Congo really, it is a management problem. Recently, when the president of the DRC thought that actually he had to handle now serious work in the army, he promoted the officers and even deployed some in the northern province. And one of those deployed was Chisembo, until he was actually tapped and told that no, actually General Chisembo died 11 years ago. So he promoted and deployed a dead soldier. And for me...
promoted to dead RDC.
Yes.
Their microphones are off. You continue.
So there is a mismanagement also.
Both Semuja and Namphy's microphones are off.
Even deployed to dead RDC.
Yes. So there is substantial mismanagement of the army.
No one has heard you, boss.
There is because see, the United States has been giving $1 billion per year for the development and professionalization of the Congolese army. I am sure, of course, with the arrival of Trump, that might have to change a bit.
Yeah.
But even then, you would look at a situation where the man now uses and utilizes the FDLR, suspected of having committed a genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda in 1994, but uses them as a mercenary force, and those are now children. Yes, offsprings. But it's now, you see, genocide, Mr. Samju, is an ideology. It can actually be inherited. It is ideological in nature. It is not just a decision.
It is true.
No,
conclude on this one.
Honorable Samju, I'm not addressing them as to whether or not they are culpable of the crimes, but I'm telling you that their settlement in Congo is the subject of the historicity of their parents and how they conducted each other in Rwanda. So when you use them as a mercenary force to assist you in solving a few of the problems that you feel you have with your own people, then they become, first of all, empowered. 2, the ideology now gets further cemented. And 3, it becomes now a scare against the neighboring countries where they have got historicity of activism. Now, that is where the interest would have to be in terms of Rwanda. So I can safely tell you, in Uganda there is a difference, by the way. The otherwise would have been Banyamulenge of Congo DRC, the Mpororo, Chisolo, and Ntungamo people in Uganda. For them, they are citizens of Uganda by birth. They are considered as indigenous persons. In fact, in the constitution, when you look at the clarity of description, they are the Banyarwanda under the 3rd schedule. The rest of the Banyarwanda in Uganda are not considered because they skedaddled from the principle of jus soli, and that is what we are intending to ameliorate here in Uganda. Yes.
Lydia, history lessons are happening here. Yes, you're on microphone now. Where will this end?
You see, the question of where it will end should be the same question being asked that you, for example, it's not only DRC that was partitioned in 1884 or thereabout. Africa was partitioned. That's part of the history you're talking about. But even, I am just a good example. I come from a border, international border, Kenya and Uganda. But you have not had this type of conflicts, even very emotional outbursts from heads of state themselves. If you see, so the issue is not whether somebody is a Munyarwanda or a Munyamulenge. The issue is bigger than the people. So I think Oscar, I think there's need to have an honest debate. Yeah. Because we all border our countries and we speak the same language. I speak the same language like our neighbors in Kenya. The Sabinj speak the same language with our counterparts in Kenya. So it is with Tanzania, with Burundi. All these neighbors, we speak. Look at South Sudan and the Ugandans.
For that matter.
Look at South Sudanese, Western Island. They speak the same language. But you have not heard about tribal fights. Where do you come from? It's about resources, but also it's about the strength of governance of these neighbors. DRC has not been able to take over the turf of its geographical boundaries as a state. So the neighbors are hungry. You cannot have water there and I'm very thirsty and you think I'll not find a way of coming to drink this water. If we do not have a candid discussion about why those guys are fighting, it's about resources on one side, and then on the other side, the governance question of DRC. If it was a strong state, this debate would not be there because they would be sharp on the borders about their resources, about their boundaries, and they wouldn't mind who speaks Kinyarwanda in which side of the border. So the issue is governance in Kinshasa. Are they in charge of that vast country? You're talking about the minerals in Eastern Congo. What about the timber? You've forgotten the story of the timber. They have huge resources with hungry neighbors who have less, and some of these neighbors have capacity to grab. They've built capacity to get something. I mean, if you want a candid conversation where it will end, you must fix the governance question of Kinshasa. The things of tribes is just an scapegoat.
Yeah.
You just say Mbide here talking. History is there. I mean, I speak the same language with your colleagues you're with in Yala. These lawyers, have you heard that we've fought? Because there's nothing to fight about. Our language. We just got circumcision, cross border, do circumcision, come back home and heal those things. So the issue is resources. Hey, there's no problem. So the issue, Oscar, is governance in Kinshasa.
And the goal.
It is not strong enough to marshal what God gave them, especially the natural resources. The neighbors know that it is there and that maybe they can grab. So there's grumbling.
Someone wants to
You're talking about the minerals in the soil, the timber. They have the best timber in the world. People go and pick, it doesn't finish. The biggest natural resources, the forests, they are there. Land, minerals. So Martin here, maybe because he's a neighbor, you said he has come here not as a big man, but they know what's happening there. They cross and dance Lingala, but at the same time start fighting. So you are asking when it will end. You have to say, wait. Leave the history alone. It will end, and I think the spirit of this African community, if it was strong, they would have worked to fix the governance question so that we're a block, a regional block, and be able to share the resources and harness the resources, natural resources in the region, so that we can be able to galvanize and make a very strong case. The best minerals that are making these phones and is it that building the technology, the IT, are from DRC. So really,
we hear
if you do not fix Kinshasa, and then there's a lot of minerals around, and there are hungry guys around hoovering, expect it will not end until you fix the governance question, and then the issues of resources and how you fix the border story of DRC.
Okay. Let me first come to Abdu here, because I fear what Namfi is going to say.
There's nothing to fear.
There's nothing to fear, she says. Abdu.
I laugh at some of you, because I want to ask who is not a Munyarwanda, but that's for another day.
Abdu.
Abdu the Munyarwanda, go on and tell us.
No.
Abdu, how will this end?
But I like them.
You like them?
You may replace the word like with some other word.
Abdu, how will this end?
It's going to take some time.
You think so?
Yeah. You see, many wars all over the world are fought over resources. And this is one of them. The biggest problem has been lack of a very strong government in Kinshasa. And two,
as Lydia is saying.
Yes, and two, Congo is too big to be managed by a weak government in Kinshasa. And it's not about President Tshisekedi. Even when it was Mobutu time, it still had the same. They have never had effective control over Eastern Congo. And
Mobutu didn't?
No, he didn't. He didn't.
That's why he was
they just went and just swept him off. It took even a very, very short time. You remember when they let Kabila, Joseph, they were just stopped because of Angolan. But they were going to kick him out. So anybody can come and work in Kinshasa. And so they have never had. And then, too, matters are not helped so much by what Honorable Mbide has been explaining. The Kinyarwanda or the Rwandan-speaking communities in the Congo. Because of the weakness of the Kinshasa government, they try to use the nationalistic language to have communities that don't speak in Rwanda to go against the Banyarwanda-speaking community in Eastern Congo. And the Banyarwanda-speaking had no alternative but to ally with the neighbors, especially those who say, after all, we are the same. And Honorable Mbide has given the history about it. That will not help. Even during Mobutu time, partly the Mai creation was to fight against the so-called Banyarwanda. So that must be sorted out. I must say this may be, Kigali may not say it publicly, But I think it's time to imagine that that part of Congo where the Banyarwanda speaking are should be part of Kigali, and you close this chapter.
Even America
I am telling you,
24 trillion.
and the only problem there is actually resources.
Yeah.
If the resources were not there, and you don't have all sorts of characters involved in the exploitation of that resource, that could be achieved. Of course, it can only be bloody, but that country will break up one way or the other sooner or later. It will. There is no way, because there is no connection at all between Eastern Congo and Western Congo, for example. There's nothing which connects them as a country. Nothing. Whether you're talking about infrastructure, that's what Mobutu did, was actually to build airports. Yeah? In all these major areas, they don't even have road infrastructure which connects the entire country and so on. So, resources, power, a very weak government in Kinshasa, and the hungry neighbors are. It's very unfortunate that really
Hungry and bad management.
that we are part of that equation. We don't.
we have our own problems.
We have enough, but then we, as Lydia says, that there is water there, then we are thirsty here. So now she puts it at a humorous level,
Yes.
but she makes a very serious point.
The Rwanda has engaged in active denials. They've been. I was listening to international media. Their Minister of Information, their president, they actively denying that they are involved in this war.
Oh, come on! I don't.
Who is believing them anyway?
Okay, Oscar.
Go on, Abdul.
If you tell a lie, and you know it is a lie, and you know that the one you are telling knows it's a lie, you look a fool.
But if you
I think you will not go to Rwanda.
No, he's not talking about Rwanda.
I'm not talking about Rwanda.
Okay.
But I will give you some example. When RPF was leaving this place,
They said they are.
did we say that we are supporting them?
No, we actually denied.
Did we?
We denied.
We denied it all along.
Actively denying.
But later on, we celebrated, and we have even been given medals for having helped us. And we've attended there and so on. So that is purely politics, and we should leave it at that. And you know, whenever there is a war, the first casualty is the truth. So you have all those denials, and so now it's not about.
We've had the Rwanda president talking about idiots and poor leadership.
Yeah, it's there, but he has also publicly given him the credit. Said no, the problem is here. These Banyarwanda people in that place are being discriminated.
Been denationalized.
Yes, and let me tell you, when you will not have a whole community being victimized because they are speaking Kinyarwanda, and you expect them to keep quiet, because this is fight for survival. Fight for survival. So that they will continue fighting. And if you have got people who believe in your cause, they one way or the other give some support. So we have no choice. That was still on.
Yeah. Nafi, the Honorable Mbide speaks like President Kagame, you know, same words and so on. These ones were denationalized, then they bring the history, and so then he says, why would Rwanda be interested?
Oscar, as we say, abuza mfaye.
And they've been having all these denials.
Yes. Oscar, at the end of the day, in the past, Kagame has come out and told us that he's protecting President Kagame, the Rwandese community there. And we all know.
This time round, he has said, no, it is their
Then the next reason was there are certain Hutu insurgents on the other side who he wants to protect Rwanda against. And at some point, there was an attempted coup, and he went in there, and the M23, his excuse was he's trying to protect the security of Rwanda. Remember, Hutu are also Rwandese. So if he really loves the Rwandese there, he wouldn't be fighting against a section of them. So at the end of that day...
Didn't they once arrest a leader of M23?
Yeah, they have the option. The Americans
He was,
You know,
was arrested and jailed.
You see, when you see the politics of M23 and that whole region, it's more than the interest of Rwanda and Uganda and Congo. It is all the way from South Africa, Angola, the United States, and you have to look at the timing of the taking of Goma, because Goma has always been there for taking. Let's not pretend that Kinshasa has a firm control over Goma. But what has changed this year, after the 2023 elections, we've seen the opposition changing in Rwanda, the face of the opposition, especially the entry into the opposition of Corneille Nga, the one who, he used to be thick with Shekedi, and then, yes, and
like Martin pointed out here.
Yes, and now he's moved to the opposition, rallied about 18, 19 other opposition groups, and now actually this, you asked where does it end? This time they are angling for the capital, Kinshasa, either by force or create
Do you think they have
an
ability
oppositional
to take
force enough.
Do they have ability to take it?
Yes.
They do. They actually do. If they and if the United States gives them a go ahead, yes. If the South does not interfere, if they, you see. Well, the one thing Iran has taught us about international politics is that the negotiations you see with what was Henry Kissinger, and the other negotiations that you never see, of one lone man in a hooded jacket meeting another lone man in a hooded jacket and discussing what is on the table. So we are going to go, of course, into the negotiations of how does Kinshasa take over Goma and under what circumstances and the conditions. But there will be those secret talks between the international community, South Africa, Congo, Uganda, Rwanda, and the United States, and to a certain extent Tanzania and Burundi, because Burundi is also now fighting the M23 because of certain positions Burundi has there. So when they sit and talk, that is when we'll know how strong, whether M23 can take over Kinshasa. And as we speak, they can. Because once the international community gives them a go-ahead, they can take over Kinshasa. Because I don't think anyone in a third world country can run a country, govern a country effectively as big as Congo with the natural resources that it has. And the forests, these forests are so dense that some of them are impenetrable. So how do you even say you govern that? If someone went into those forests, sometimes the rebels fought in those forests, and you can't beat them. It's literally impossible, naturally impossible to beat them. So as we all know, in 2018, Uganda put its puppet, Shekedi, into power in the Congo. At that time, Uganda and Rwanda were not seeing eye to eye. So Shekedi was our dude, Uganda's dude. But because he came third in the election, remember? And even at first it was a rumor. Oscar, you accused me of cutting words here. But Corneille came out and said it, that there was a deal between Kabila and Shekedi, where they decided to put Shekedi, so that the person who was runner-up at the time, who was the actual de facto winner of the election, the one they cheated, Fayulu, yes, at the time was the runner-up who they cheated, and they put Shekedi because at that point we got to a point where Kabila was unacceptable. Shekedi, yeah. The church was also for Shekedi. Yes. The international community was for Shekedi. Yeah, exactly. So usually you win, Congo. But Congo is more complicated than that. So when the different parties put Shekedi in power, they had certain expectations, and over the preceding years, we've seen Shekedi again and again go back on his word and the promises he made to the different countries. So they are now decided, and after the 2023 election, which he won, chances are he actually did win it from the international community. And seeing the Congolese parliament pass resolutions to expel Uganda and
the East African force.
And the East African forces, we are now at the point where, because Shekedi has been very clear that he is not going to sit on the same table with Kagame and negotiate anything or ever speak to him again, or he even refused.
Nairobi.
Exactly. So we are looking at a situation where does it end now? We are going for Kinshasa. It's no longer we are securing, because the previous excuses, we just needed Katanga, Kivu, Goma, and those areas to just be under us because, of course, Goma being the border town, we need safe passage of our looters when they're coming from the Congo. Katanga has minerals. The region has very, vast resources.
For water,
I know.
now we looters.
No, we loot. I mean, there's a whole ICJ decision and ruling on us looting. So it's not even a rumor. Plundering. Including rape and everything in between. So now you have to look. You leave the 1884 borders, the Berlin Conference, the genocide in 1994. That is history. Now we are where we are. Where we are is we have Shekedi not playing and not dancing to our beat, and now we have decided Shekedi goes. The takeover of GOMA was to test the waters. Our deal is if the waters are tested, now we are forced to bring everyone to the table, and then we make new agreements.
As you conclude.
As I conclude, we are going for
we?
Yeah?
Who's we?
We, Uganda, Rwanda, and the rebels.
Yes,
we are the rebels.
And our
proxies in the region. So no one is very interested in the Nyamuleng and there. But Oscar, let me say this. It's heartbreaking.
Personal capacity. Personal capacity.
Semuju's balls are going. Anytime now, the balls are going. Me, I have no balls, so no one is coming for mine. So I'm saying. So Oscar, what I'm saying is, let's think.
The security company.
So to conclude this topic, I want Martin to conclude.
It is sad to see people carrying their mattresses and their bags and going to and becoming refugees over the greed aimlessly and over the greed of just a few men. And these are old men whose one leg is inside the grave anyway. Why do they feel the need to plunder and steal and amass more wealth? I wouldn't even say this is in the interest of their country.
So,
no,
two comments from you and from Oscar, Martin here. Indeed.
Oscar's balls.
Let me switch off Namfi's microphone. But
yes.
When now I'm going to start saying that you are Kagame PR.
No.
When he says that he will meet South Africa in the context they like, what does he mean?
No, I think the two leaders.
Hey.
I am not.
Somebody is saying he means war.
I am not President Kagame's PR, but I have got very great interest in regional affairs.
Yeah.
And I am ideologically completely aligned when it comes to citizenships within the region. So I am an interested party. I am not really a PR specialist for any leader. But I would tell you. I think the two leaders have adopted what we would call robust diplomacy. They are extremely public on what they discuss on phone. So I think they are being...
They're not discussing anything anymore on the phone.
And attacking, because you see,
fact,
the word is not
President
robust.
Kagame, it seems to indicate that the South Africa president is telling lies.
Honorable Katuntu, in diplomacy, the word robust is derogatory. They actually use it to indicate that it is not diplomacy at all. So it includes the promise of war, promise of yes,
telling lies about the conversation we had.
Yeah, so that is what they have adopted, and I think accountability to their own people is key in this. When a leader talks to you on phone, but he addresses his people in such a way that anytime anything can happen to you, then obviously by way of accountability and making sure that your population is also aware of what may come, you must come off as somebody who must tell them the truth. We have seen here people, when, for example, the president got threatened with the resurgence of coin, he actually came publicly and told us the date on which coin will be finished. Until, of course, they disagreed with I think, Honorable Semju or Tamale. So I can tell you that there are times when a leader must be public on what actually should have been private. And when they choose to do so, they must also now partake of the criticism that comes up.
Okay.
Yes.
Martin, you wanted to finish this one.
Of course, Honorable Bob said I am closest to the Congolese here.
And Lydia said, in the night you go over there, dance Lingala, and then you come back.
No, that's not true. For me, I'm Ugandan 100%. I'm not Congolese, but of course they are neighbors.
Go on.
Yeah, but I think the bigger picture has been given, and one of the problems I see, even when the bigger front mobilizes towards Kinshasa, is the one thing that Tshisekedi has successfully done is to mobilize the Congolese people against the Rwandese. So much so that even when power is taken and there's any component of the Rwandese involved in the coalition, there will never be peace, even 100 years from today. Yes,
wow.
it will not happen. It will just continue.
Militarize them.
It will be a cycle. But also, for instance, if you look at Tshisekedi's previous term, and he had senior leaders like the Mbusa Nyamwiso, the former Minister of Foreign Affairs. He also had a rebel group. No, he had a rebel group in Kivu, and yes, and he was a stabilizing factor in the region. But you know, Tshisekedi kicking out all these experienced people and bringing in people from Europe who understand nothing about most of these dynamics has been a problem. But for me,
hold on, Martin. Let's stop for a quick break because I want to hear that instead of rushing you, and then we'll change topics after the break. Welcome back from the break. Martin, you had a comment to make, and then we go to court martial.
I think conclusively, Oscar, and I pray that Tshisekedi really gets out of the flamboyance and comfort that he can still change things. We still have the biggest godfather in the regional politics, and that is His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. And I thought Tshisekedi would have used that advantage. Yes, true. Because you see, if
he has stabilized South Sudan,
yeah,
so he becomes.
But the reason we're having all these problems is because he's not involved that much. And my prayer is that His Excellency Tshisekedi tones down, comes and has a proper discussion through a person who matters and a person of influence in the region. But conclusively, for us, the people that live at the border, and this is the most unfortunate thing, is the trade that we are going to lose out of the insurgents and instability in DRC. Uganda now, in the East African region, Congo is our biggest trading partner with over 750 million US dollars that we trade between the two. What we import from Congo is around $36 million. So you can see how much benefit. In my community, we are cattle keepers. We don't sell cows. We don't bring cows to Kampala anymore. They all go to the DRC. Yes, we export almost around, Honorable Semuju, every week over 4,000 heads of cattle go to DRC, and they are from Mubende because we can't supply the market enough.
Fully.
So you can imagine how much loss we will have lost, and you can see the you can see the wisdom of His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni when we were saying we want to open up roads. I remember our contribution on the 220-kilometer roads was around $100 million, but you can imagine just out of the investment of $100 million would be able to bring $750 million. So my prayer is that our brother Shekedi tones down, comes back home, and then we have a discussion. But without the allies on his own, he has nowhere to go, I can assure you.
Thank you. Well, I guess that story, it's a developing story, so we'll have more of it. In the studio, we have all of 4 lawyers and a senior lawyer at that. Honorable Katuntu, yesterday the Supreme Court spoke. In some ways, you had predicted what they would speak, and you seemed to suggest that there was no other way. They could not speak differently at all, and it seemed to happen. The way they spoke made you look clever, because you had said this last year, the other year, that there's only one way they can speak, and they spoke like that.
They didn't make me look clever. I'm only clever. And I have no apologies to make. Anyway, jokes aside, first of all, it's not the Supreme Court that decided. Let's get this clearly. It is the Constitutional Appellate Court.
Oh.
Okay? Yeah, because there are 2 courts up there.
Pardon?
Also right.
He is right and I'm also right.
So the decision is a constitutional court, but the highest constitutional court. It never sat as the Supreme Court, but it sat as the Court of Appeal. Because everything was about our lawyers anyway. It wasn't about the other things. So, one, it has taken long, but it was worth waiting for. It was worth waiting for. They have set what we call jurisprudence. They have set they have redefined the role of the court martial, and there is no appeal from there. So we are faced with some decision in finality. What did the court decide? The court decided, one, that the court martial does not have powers to try civilians, because that was what Honorable Kabaziguruka was contesting. But he got more than what he asked for. And you know, I've always said it on this show that sometimes we move into things and we have unintended consequences. So maybe if the Attorney General had left the decision at the Constitutional Court, it would have been okay. But he tried to go up there, and the whole thing was now opened up. And, you know, the intellectual imperative, you need to congratulate all these judges. Every judge wrote his own judgment, gave his own reasons, and touched on each and every aspect of that court. They faulted us as Parliament because we are the ones who enacted the UPDF Act, and many of those provisions were found to be unconstitutional. They have also advised us to go look into it and realign the Act in accordance with the Constitution. But the most important thing is, it seems the court is saying it is not about civilians alone, but even the powers of the Court of Appeal to try soldiers for offenses, and even penal offenses where they can even be imprisoned and so on. They have,
to death.
Yes, they have also looked into. Thirdly, when you read what the Chief Justice, the Honorable Chief Justice, written, it's about the constitution of that court without any legal training. And he gives a very humorous example that's like telling a lawyer to go in a theater and operate. He doesn't know that's distinguish between a kidney and a liver. And there he is, purporting to be operating somebody. It is also, I think, a reform which is suggesting to the lawmakers, if you are constituting a court, let's get qualifications to be legal training to be part of the qualification for people who sit in those in those court martials and so on. Other than say you wake up one day, say Lieutenant Colonel Katundu from Idudi, you are now chairman court martial, and the examples are there to be given. Even when let his soul rest in peace, General Tumwino was, the way he was conducting that case, it was quite sad. So it's a fundamental departure legally from what they have been doing, and we have nothing to do but to be proud of the court, because the decision they took, many people were cynics. I remember one person on the streets I belong to, the social media streets I belong to, was saying very uncharitable things about somebody, and I was like, no, that shouldn't be the case. Give the people benefit of doubt. Let us wait for the decision and so on. And there was, you can't say there was even a conspiracy of the judges. Each and every judge has his own reasons, different from the other, at arriving at the same decision. And really, it's worth reading. It's worth reading. The amen should now go into the reforms which have been suggested by the court. I don't know whether there is anybody complaining about this decision.
We don't know yet. Lydia, was it Judge Mugenyi who said, talked about incompetence, said, that the court is incompetent?
So anyway, I would like to congratulate it's called Kabaziguruka. Kabaziguruka. I think yesterday was his day, but also maybe for Uganda, because it's not a Kabaziguruka thing alone. It's about the laws we have in our country and how we want to dispense justice. The decision is a big document. I think it's about 200 pages.
No, that's one decision of the CJ.
It's a long one, and I think it should interest everybody, including Semuju. Semuju, you have a reading culture. It would be interesting for you to read that, because it informs a lot. But this does not. I've also read the letter of the president and the intent why the court martial is there. So I think they can go back to the drawing board, not them alone, because about Uganda, anybody that is interested in research and good laws for Uganda, we can now refocus the purpose of the court martial so that it can serve its purpose, but also have courts of law to also serve their purpose. Everybody is happy, including, I think, the court martial, because the mandate of the courts of law is to explain. It is to clarify how issues of the law are supposed to be laid out to the Ugandans. Ugandans include people in the court martial. These are Ugandans, and they have a space they contribute to the justice of the country. So they should be happy. But now go back and recast, if you want, what do we want court martial to do, and be able to put it in law and ensure that they dispense that contribution they make. I'm talking this in mind of the intention of that court, by the way the president made an opinion about it, the commander-in-chief, so they can also play their role, but also the courts of law also play their role. While we are celebrating, I really also want to remind, maybe it's not my work, but let me say it because I'm a Ugandan, let also the court do their work. The energy with which the Chief Justice summarized the matter, they should also up their sleeves to work, because there are so many, the case backlog does not speak to.
This one took 4 years.
Yeah. Why did it take 4 years? So if we align how they've said that all matters should go to court like we all believe, and then they begin sitting on cases for 4 years, we are not amused. That one, no, you listen, because I also listen to you.
But I want to give you what the court explained.
They explained, and I've seen people apologizing. But some people I saw people actually preempting. This is what they are going to say. They are going to say that basically should be killed. You know, there was a lot of maligning and lambasting the case. And even when they had announced that it is going to come up, they began preempting, like they had already read the judgment.
Agatha Atuhaire has been one of them, activist lawyers.
Yeah, activist people. So I've seen apologies, which is also good. They were like, oh, okay, we didn't expect this. It's like they were putting them to the corner to say you preempt the judgment. They have already blackmailed. There's a lot of blackmailing of the judiciary. So that apology has been made from the activists, but also there was an explanation yesterday. But my point is, they should also now expedite all pending, so that we have the hope that they stated yesterday, to say if my case goes to any court of law, it shouldn't take a year.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Namfi, the John here in Kampala says, what happens to judgments that were handed down by the court-martial? What about sentences that have already been carried out?
I think we'll see the details in the judgment. Because usually when court rules on something, unless they specifically state that prior judgments are affected by the ruling, then they are not affected by the ruling. It's the way the law works.
Yeah, but they handled it.
Yes.
In detail. Yeah. They've made clear
so they will not be affected.
That.
What very quickly, what was the clear direction?
It will not have retrospective
application. Yeah.
On those which have already.
Yes.
You continue serving, but when your appeal,
so
if
where there is a pending
review,
a review and appeal will be governed by this new law. Of course, in a military state like ours, it remains to be seen whether the powers that be will respect this decision. And I don't want to sound pessimistic, but I'm hesitant to even call this a lease of hope for our country. But maybe, just maybe it is, because, I mean, look at most of these Supreme Court justices. They are aging, they're no longer young, they are legacy. But I would be more impressed if during the upcoming election, when government steals the election.
The government does not. When Museveni is the candidate, please don't hide under government.
I want my balls.
When Museveni cheats elections.
I am not risking my balls. I'm not risking my balls.
Namfi,
do you have
this is a morning show?
Oh, hey, that one is vulgar.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
No, can you tell us how?
No. Mohozi said he's coming for Semuju's balls, and he's going to kill Semuju. So what I'm saying, Oscar,
give us a word.
I will be more impressed if this is followed next year. First, I appreciate this, and a resounding clap for them, a resounding clap for the activists who pushed for this. Part of me thinks they will, like Abdu pointed out. Since the beginning of this case, there is nowhere else to rule other than this. Because to rule to the contrary, you go against the law, you go against the politics, you go against the common sense. But stranger things have happened with this regime. So I applaud that for once, because the contrast with the Chief Justice, this Chief Justice and the one who was hounding the Lady Justice Chisache for her dissenting ruling during the election petition were very two different people, and if they can keep this up. And during the next election petition, when once again certain elements steal the election, if they can keep this up, then I will be at that point more impressed by their actions than this. Yeah. But this
President
Black
Museveni
Swan
has been saying opposition have been stealing elections all this time. So
you know, what do young people call it? Delulu, eh? Sometimes these delusion statements, maybe we can attribute to his age, but then again, he's been delusional even when he was younger. But we move.
So get the answer.
Yes, it's those delusionary utterances we can ignore, because even the statement he made, I don't know whether it was a right statement he made after this ruling, saying that he's also speaking against
I think that's just social media.
It's social media?
Yes.
Okay. Because when I saw it, I was like, no.
He spoke previously about how good the court martial is.
Yes.
That's an article that I've shared with you.
Because it was during those utterances that he said it was good the army beat up
at that time to
Robert
another
Chagulanyi.
decision which came out of the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Yes. So there is a new lease of life in our rule of law. Can we keep up with it? Should we be optimistic? I am not very sure.
Okay.
I am cautiously optimistic.
Cautiously. That's a new one, being optimistic. Yes. Honorable Mbide.
Yes.
Lawrence in Kampala says, good morning, gang. What did you expect from those NRM cadre judges? We all expected that judgment from the Museveni hand-picked lords. But let's wait for the election petitions and then gauge their ruling. It's a bit contradictory, the message.
Okay. I saw a trending video of our current president of the Law Society, of the radical new bar, pursuant to the decision that was
radically
taken.
Celebrating.
Singing Owinyi Dolo. So, Afoe Matek. So, we, as lawyers, I think it is our duty to thank the court. And by the time, by the way, people begin to thank courts, it has got also its negative implications. Because if we expected the court to do so, obviously, we would not be thanking the court. But we would like them to continue doing the job for which they were contemplated. So the decision, when we are starting to learn law, there are things that we used to, we were extremely fascinated with certain provisions, certain antiques, certain semantics, certain sayings. Locus classicus was one of them. So this is one of the best cases we will definitely work with. We are going to, as lawyers, of course, they are going to be, it is going to be of extreme importance. One thing that actually is unfair, persons whose decision had been handed down, there was no availability. Of course, the subject of appeal, I think court is sorry. A retrospective application of that decision might not help. Because I think the court gave some distinction in terms of collateral and some other distinctions. So those that are now serving sentences that are final, see you later. There is no way we can look into your matter, but the decision was taken. Going forward. So Chiza definitely will be transferred now to the appropriate court. No, Kiza Besige, I thought. Oh, the other Kiza. Well, since that was contempt of court, and there is now a decision in terms of the appropriate of that court to try civilians, we may find a way. But still, there is a process that has to be undertaken. It is not going to be an automatism that you will walk out of prison anyhow. So there are things that the court actually pointed to. But one thing for sure is that Parliament has been given a warning. When you are enacting laws, look critically at what the Constitution gives you as powers. Because the powers under that Article 209-210 were to definitely enact a law for the discipline, structures, and functioning of the Uganda People's Defense Forces. Now, you could not in the same instance enact a law that clearly gives the credence to trial of civilians who are not actually part of the structures and who cannot commit service offenses. I think that is to be more clear. To also be tried in the same court, which ideally is a structure. But of course, there is a problem. Sometimes I know that the Honorable Semju and Honorable Katuntu are actually, they lack quorum in Parliament. And because of the recently concluded the elections, of course, most voters actually went to parliament and members of parliament didn't win. So there is a problem of quorum of intellectuals in parliament. So you will have to deal with a lot. I saw it even, and the process is still continuing. I saw Honorable Katuntu struggling to have a debate on the age limit. But I looked at a parliament that was completely disinterested in a debate. And we don't have a proper answer on that. But at least we know there is a decision on amendment of a constitution without a proper debate. So for me, I think Parliament needs to Parliament needs to style up. When we are required to have laws enacted must be within the precincts of the provisions that give them powers to do so. Of course, courts have also indicated to us that tenure of office of a judicial officer has a lot to do with that impartiality of that judicial officer. So for us now operating with the judges that are all whose tenures are not as confirmed as practicable, it also points to what is likelihood of. I think we have got a section of judges on Katuntu. There is some reference to them. They are not confirmed. They are in acting capacity. Now, so if we continue to have such persons exist, then of course now with this decision, impartiality is itself injured. Finally, benchmarking is really not going to be the case when we are enacting laws. Because members of parliament benchmarked Egypt, they benchmarked Russia, Kuwait, Algeria, and established our court-martial almost on all fours, while the others were actually establishing persons for, an institutions for service offenses. Now here, and I think this is what, of course, Justice Mujenyi also called the competence. Now, competence in law would not necessarily be, of course, being ignorant, lacking capacity. It is generally having the legal capability to do something. So somebody who is not a trained lawyer, placing such a person with the possibility of determining between right and wrong over jurisprudential weighing scales, really you are just telling the person that you have got a very great sense of humor. Soldiers can't know what to do in terms of right and wrong. All they know is about order. And of course, disobeying of such orders to them is guilt in nature. Some of them are, of course, looking forward to promotions and clearly giving a decision. While what you are looking forward to is a promotion, is itself the lack of justice that the courts helped to actually.
I like the way you present that. But Honorable Semujo, Godwin Toko says people are right to be angry and protest and call out the judges. We are talking about an appeal that was filed in 2021 and now it is 2025. That's such a long time. Why did it take that long? And just imagine the injustice suffered by hundreds, the Olivia Rutayas, hundreds of Karamoja youths. Besiji Obed, Aaron, he says he could go on.
Because the court explained it. One, yes, because you see, you need a full quorum, and the first quorum constituted, one judge died. Then they constituted a second forum. Then one judge reached retirement age. Then they constituted the third one. Then there was another death and so on. The last quorum, which was fully constituted, was only 8 months ago. So it has been death and retirement.
You see, Oscar,
so it's not 4 years really, and they explained it really.
The pain that Museveni has caused us is making people who are knowledgeable, decent, do foolish things.
This is true.
I'll never forget Chidoma Kubuya, the first to get first class degree, but his interpretation was like of a nursery kid. I said when Kavuma retired from court, I didn't expect court to change drastically. But Owinyudolo was better than Kavuma from day one. But Museveni doesn't allow. I remember one time I was doing a story when Arona became the army commander. I interviewed all the former, all of them, Tumwine, Saleh, Muntu. And Muntu said it's not that we lack officers who can be professional, but micromanaging the military is the problem. So Museveni continues running the court partly. I remember in the case of Amama Mbabazi with Parliament, Mbabazi had problems with Kadaga, so he wanted to sort those problems. Mbabazi had taken Parliament to court. And Museveni said, call me Odoki, as if he was asking one of his assistants, because he was telling Mbabazi to withdraw the case. And Mbabazi said, no, it's pending judgment, I can't withdraw. So he said, call me Odoki. Can't this matter be withdrawn? Odoki said, no, if even 2 hours before the judgment, as long as the one who brought it is the one withdrawing. So that's how he runs court. So the Owinyi Dolos, and that's why they made a great point. The fact that people are celebrating a judgment and not celebrating you, the judges, means there is a problem. I was asking Abdu, the time of the Twino Mujuni, the Karokora, Odell is the person I was asking you. Yeah, these were celebrated judges. We are not celebrating their judgments. We were already celebrating them because there was a list. There was a list of judgments they had delivered to the satisfaction of everybody. Okero, but Owinyi Dolo, we are now celebrating one decision, and we hope it will not be a one-off. So you just have to deliver as many judgments, and then we will now begin celebrating you. Today we are just celebrating a decision.
Just hold it there. We're going to stop for a break, and after the break, you will conclude. Then we'll have Martin and end this topic. Welcome back from the break. Honorable Semuju, you are concluding your comment.
No, I was actually starting. But if you want me to conclude, I have attended almost all the sessions when Dr. Kiza Besigye is appearing. I used to attend them as a journalist. Now I am attending them as a politician.
I see that one of our favorite listeners, BMK Gift Senior, Martha Karua, told of a judge advocate that he can only advise and that she should be the one to advise him.
Yeah, that she said. That court martial, they sit where they sit, you don't know whether one is a judge, whether one is a... But one of them walked where and almost wrestled down Kiza, the lawyer, before other soldiers dragged him, beat him. It's like you are appearing before animals in a zoo by a fence. That's what happened to Kiza. The women who were like crying, then he was being dragged. So the
What do you mean by light cry?
I have my sisters. I am married to a woman. I have seen them cry when I am not crying. So they cry. So they. So don't ask me to elaborate. So Abdu is speaking other information. So
Continue, please.
So the point is, taken before a court martial, you automatically know you are not appearing before any tribunal. They are not even a tribunal.
You don't expect justice?
No, it cannot be there. But they can't even pretend. So I am very happy with this judgment. I like Ounyidoro, by the way. But I am not sure the environment he went to serve in can allow him. That's why people are shocked by this judgment. Said, hey, you mean these guys can deliver this judgment? So he will need to deliver more before he finally retires for people to know. Because I was speaking to the road mayor yesterday and he said he laughed and he was cautioned by a court. When Ounyidoro said, for once, court has a duty to deliver a sober judgment. He said, Ounyidoro said that, and he was quoting the preamble of the Constitution. So when a Chief Justice begins to make those kind of statements that for once, court has to deliver a sober judgment, and is quoting the preamble of the Constitution, it's an admission that actually what we have been doing is not the right work. Maybe today we are doing it. So that's why people are saying, oh, wait a minute. And that's going to be the test to that court. I think the only person who is not happy is Museveni and his son, Muhoozi Kainerugaba, because they are the ones who want to kill Besigye. Now, finally, people that Museveni can also keep you in prison if he wants, whether you are in court. I was in Masaka when Alan and Seginyo were being released by a judge of High Court. One of the grounds she cited was their own, what do they call it, being members of parliament. Yes. And another judge in the same court gave the same ground for keeping that. He doesn't want to do things the bad way. He wants to quietly go and take over roles that are not his and then pretend that he did not. So what people should now expect is that when you are taken to High Court and High Court gives you bail, either Museveni will remove the bail or he will come and now grab you and charge you with something else. So the outcome might be the same.
Who is that person who once refused bail, saying they will wait for me outside there?
No. When they grab the
Was it Mawanda?
Honorable Akamba, the MPs who were arrested for corruption, they grabbed the Akamba. Mwesigwa Rukutana, who was a lawyer for the rest, he said, the way I see the weather outside, I will not apply for bail, because he knew that even if court had granted it. So things haven't changed yet. The judgment, we celebrate it, we welcome it. Now we will monitor both the subsequent judgment, but also the conduct of Museveni and his son.
Martin.
Probably. I also want to. Fortunately, I have interacted with the Chief Justice Ounyidoro. I had a matter before him, I think around 2008-9. Unfortunately, I lost the matter. But what was the matter? It was a land matter by the But from I have known him as a brilliant, hardworking gentleman. And when I see people belittle his way around things, and now it's really saddening. And I think he made this statement in court on the conduct of the lawyers and the people that benefit from the court, and on how they take these judges, the level of disrespect, and turning the court into a political theater. And I think something should be done about this, because when the politicians are in, I don't want to say names, but when a politician is in court representing a client, it now becomes more of politics, and he tends to look at how he gains out of it than the actual client or that they are representing. But of course, this is not new. As the NRM government, we've lost a couple of cases in court against the opposition. It's unfortunate when I heard Nafi saying that for once now we're a bit happy, but I will cautiously be optimistic going forward.
Yes.
By the judgment. But this is very unfair, really. Because so for you only when you carry the day is when you're happy. When you don't carry, then it becomes a problem.
So when
And
the Chief just says, for once, we'll give a sober judgment.
I did hear
how
him
do you
saying
understand
that. On record, he didn't say that. I don't know.
He said it on microphone.
Probably I missed that. But I think this is a bit unfortunate, and more confidence to the people out there that the judiciary still works. Well, for me, I'll focus on the recommendations given by the Chief Justice, and it's for instance that he should be given power to appoint the judges in the military courts. So all these recommendations really do away with the military court. It's just going to be a shell, but it ceases to be a military court. Because if even the subordinate courts, you're going to hire civilian.
It should be like the police tribunal.
Yes.
They work on their cases.
Now, I find this a bit unfortunate, but it's a debate we can have going forward. Yes, this is no, this is my opinion, because I think the essence of forming the military court was because the military people in service a bit unique from we the civil Ugandans. They carry guns, they have a decision to do with life and death. When they're on a battlefield and the wrong decision is taken, it's okay. It's just my opinion, Samuju.
I'll give you a minute to respond on the
If someone makes a wrong decision on the battlefield and could maybe endanger the lives of 100, 200 people and probably an overrun of a whole government, so
and you don't think it's catered for in our laws and courts?
In the civilian courts, it's a bit different. And if you look at the president's letter, clearly, and if we went for a referendum, yes, Samuju don't. If we went for a referendum, because if you see how the courts, our civil courts, handle matters, I have been in court before. I have seen how people are treated. People come for justice year in, year out, and they never get it. And the military court has been able to deal with this effectively and in a timely manner. And for instance, a crook really carrying a gun, you've killed 10, 15 people, you come to the civil court and it's business as usual. So I think we should go back and look at this legislation and see how we still provide, yes, for the tough criminals.
Martin,
yes.
Are you aware that there were people who were arrested during the last campaigns, NUP supporters, and it's now 4 years and none of them have been tried?
Yeah. Not even once.
None for 4 years, and that's the court you are telling us everything has been all rosy. Excuse me.
I am speaking to the military mainly.
What I say, everybody appearing before, it doesn't matter who. But once you appear before a general court martial, you are saying this has been an efficient court. And I'm giving you an example. These guys who were released the other day, convicted when they purportedly confessed, had been in that court for over 4 years without trial, without even a single evidence given.
Yes.
Really, you need to say sorry on that point, because the facts don't bear you out.
Allowed me to conclude. That's a
Please go ahead.
Yes. Of course, in those circumstances, I agree. For instance, a civilian who is unarmed, who has not done the atrocities we are talking about, carrying guns and killing people, that one, of course, is a bit unfortunate. What I'm trying to say is that we should now not lose that kind of trial that is more of a summary trial. Yes, I'm saying in this specific circumstances.
You're kind of speaking NRM speak.
No, but for me, in conclusion, let me say this, and I still want to
please conclude.
I still want to conclude. Let me conclude.
See, we are getting
and I still want to speak to the president's letter in reference to Karamoja and the young men involved in cattle rustling and killing people as they involved in the illegal activity. That if it was a civilian court, someone has been killed, we know that's the process of justice. That sometimes people need to be, and if you look at the foundation of the NRM and why they were appreciated in communities, because they were able to deal with criminals there and then, and the community would see this being done.
They're the ones in power.
And I think we should not lose this component. We have a lot of inefficiency unless the Chief Justice assures us of efficiency in the courts of law.
I said you have NRM speak for you. I think you made it a bit worse. But because Lydia did well, what do you know what she did? She said the ruling is so good, but now you judges, you must very quickly give whatever. And her focus was on the timing But for you, a backlog.
Yes, yes. For me,
you now, you have even.
For me, I am looking at the circumstances as they are. Okay. I'm not dreaming about the future. What is happening in the civilian courts is an absurdity. For people, especially the military, let's say, and yes, what I'm trying to say is we should not lose.
You wanted to respond to you? We go to military.
I was irritated.
The court martial.
I was just
but somebody you irritated me very many times, and I've not said it on the microphone.
Waiting for him to conclude. You see, Oscar.
Sometimes Oscar, you tell him.
Just imagine, Oscar. Kasirye Gwanga was my friend, very good friend. But imagine you are appearing before Judge Kasirye Gwanga. Sura Semakula in Teso there, they accused some soldiers of killing a Muzungu. He tried them in 20 minutes, put them on firing squad, because Sura Semakula was of Kasirye Gwanga's caliber. That's what the judges were talking about. Quickly. Anyone can find himself in the military.
Oscar.
And that's how you ended up with Dwago Nyanzi, Sura Semakula, Kazini, everybody. Just imagine appearing before one of those. This guy who is the judge there trying Besiji, you can see he's sober. Even under provocation, he keeps calmness. Free man. And I give him credit. They have misbehaved, but generally, as a person heading the court, you can see he's being run by another one calling himself judge somebody. But he's sober. But appearing before Kasirye Gwanga, Judge Kasirye Gwanga, and the minister, a younger man like you are saying it is okay.
You see, Oscar, you see,
I thought I was the one responding. He has ended. No, he has ended.
He wants to.
No, he's saying nothing.
In a minute.
You see, you see, Semuju.
Muhoozi Kainerugaba, who said, Besije, we are going to kill you if we have even identified the tree. And then you appear before Muhoozi Kainerugaba as a judge.
You see,
wait one day, it will happen to you.
You see, Semuju is from a town here, Kira municipality. He's but I want to tell you.
Yeah, you left your village and also came here.
Semuju, I want to tell you, if we subjected the decision to ban the military courts in the entirety. I'm not talking about them trying civilians. I'm talking about, for instance, soldiers that get involved in land grabbing and then come and appear in civilian courts. Listen.
His microphone is not on.
And get bail. Trust me. The court martial might carry the day against the civilian courts. If you go down there, you do not know the bail.
Has the court martial ever handled the land matter?
No.
By soldiers that have grabbed lands?
Yes.
Have they?
They do.
But Honorable Minister, you're second.
Maybe what the Honorable Minister hasn't. Probably he needs to also look at the decision properly. Because at the end of the decision, court gave what they termed advisory orders. These are not orders per se, but they are actually slightly above just pieces of advice.
They are suggesting reforms.
Yeah, suggesting reforms. And they never did away with the court martial per se. But it was actually advised that there should be established that kind of court martial as another division of the court, the High Court, if they want, with also clear directions on competencies, qualifications. And actually the judge said, I mean, when you look at him, he's fairly educated. But how would you now deliver him in one of the departments of gynecology in Mulago to start now operating on any of the clients?
You didn't say gynecology.
Yes, but for me, that is what I thought.
No, that's what you're interested in.
Thank you.
So he said.
God said. Oscar, for me, just
hold on, Martin. I'm going to show you some social media. People are going to murder you on social media. But Honorable Bidne.
Yes.
And he wants a referendum. Let us see what the referendum is saying. You don't know about you.
Yes, you and Namfi here and Abdu, you like things American.
Yes.
Now you have Trump. So what is going to happen? With these freezes on international aid, and they've kind of unfrozen a bit on HIV, but there's panic in all areas.
Yes. I think in this regard, I would expect the population to cry, but not governments. I don't know. Why would governments think that a government of other taxpayers ought to have had a duty of care? on their own people. There was a question somebody raised. There is one of the neighboring countries with a lot of resources that used to claim another country is stealing its resources. But the other country said, no, but we equally crisscross the corridors of IMF together. If you have all those resources and that they can develop another country, why are you not developing yours? So Trump gave his executive orders. Not all are actually bad in relation to African countries. For example, the executive order on national energy services, that they are going to definitely unleash them. Also, they are going to now jostle for the market for the supply of fossil oils. For me, I think that is now going to make sure price volatility on oil products is going to be established at world market. We are going to begin experiencing lower prices in terms of fuel, and that will lower our cost of production for our own production here. The problem, ideally in economics it should. The problem is that our governance systems here do not offer such environments to exist.
Honorable Semujo.
So the idea of course of the suspension on HIV, withdrawal from World Health Organization, I think prioritization is the key for governments of Africa.
Thank you. Honorable Semujo. Trump.
We passed what I call the first draft, budget draft in Parliament this week. And as a shadow minister, I made proposals. The proposals were as a result of continuing to fund the same things. Oscar. We have seen here 4 children. Their curriculum, the National Development Curriculum Center said they needed 7 billion to do some temporary working, printing, training teachers before they develop what we would call maybe a permanent curriculum. They are crying for 7 billion. They didn't give them. In the draft budget, they wanted 12 billion, it's not given. But we put together a total of 3.4 trillion, money that is going to fund workshop, entertainment, donation, beddings and clothing, fuel, etc. And I asked those guys in finance, including NRM, this one who supports a court martial, that you must make a choice. You must make a choice of popularizing an 80-year-old man, because you have given him 80 billion to donate so people can like him.
So in short,
and developing them a curriculum.
In short, you are with Trump.
We have money to do these basic things. We may not have money to grow our country the way we want, but to deal with the basic things we have, the only problem is that it goes to fund those stupid things.
Of supporting Trump.
Yes.
Usually with the intention to shame me.
Is it possible?
To shame me?
Is it possible?
Oscar,
you mean she's shameless?
there is something about Trump. It's not about supporting him, and because people don't draw this line, so I don't go full on to tell them I support Trump. But you see, there is something about a madman who comes and radically does things that need to be done. I don't know whether any of you has read a book by
So one of
Dambisa
them
Moyo.
banging the tables.
I am with that madman of banging the tables and a foil. Who?
Earlier than the president of Law Society. Now
Yes.
was already banging the tables.
Because at some point we have, this foolishness has to stop somewhere. Have you read the book by Dambisa Moyo about debt?
Which one?
About AIDS.
AID.
Aid, yeah.
It explains the irony, and the aid is actually a problem, not a solution to the third world. We've been aided for the last 60 years. Where are we? Do we look any different? I remember Ratan Tata speaking about the communities in India, which the Tata group aided, and those where Tata group took business. And he said the communities where they took business, opened factories and employed people, were thriving, and the communities they had donated to year in, year out, the slums of India and Bombay they had donated to, were still languishing in poverty 30, 20 years after they started helping them. Let us not fool ourselves that this aid helps. Why would you, for example, give the speakers of parliament cars worth 2 billion and you don't have a budget for HIV? Why would you outsource something like your health, and yet you give what is that man testing coffee, 38 billion to Muhoozi's brother-in-law? Why would you do that? So at the end of the day, when we kid ourselves at this, and because Trump radically looked at aid, you've read the diary of an economic hitman, and they are very clear what aid does. They're not. Don't think American population is seated there wishing you Africans very well. No. They are seated there. They want to hook you onto this aid. They want to hook a certain part of society onto this aid so that they control you. It is about control. And then every time you remember when we were having the homosexuality debate, and we were saying we are hitting back at the West to stop this and this, but then you're going to go up in hand and beg them. And yet the resources that you have, the mega resources, you're wasting them on bribing NRM officials, on paying what, on the family expenditure. No. At the end of the day, let's figure it out. And I agree with what Uhuru Kenyatta said. Oscar, why do you want me to
Because we don't have time.
Uhuru Kenyatta made a very valid point last week, saying American taxpayers are not your brothers or sisters. Look after yourself, stop complaining, and go find a plan
international
B.
freeze.
Well, 90 days, and after 90 days, there will be a review. But I think the begging world is now shouting, and to use Martin and Ibra's words, I think it is irritating. I mean, we can't be there shouting why somebody is not going to give us aid, really. It's irritating, really. Please, please, please. I think let's, according to our size, we need to look at what we can afford. And this week has been a very sad week for me. I have sat in that house and I've listened to my colleagues in Parliament, and I felt so bad. Everybody is looking at the side of the budget. Everybody. We need money for this, we need money for this. I was saying we need money here, compensation here. Everybody. 99% of the MPs. I think it is only the Shadow Minister for Finance, who's talked about really the revenue. What sort of money are we having? Everybody was really talking about expenditure. Oh, we need hospitals here, we need this, we need this here. I said, where are you going to get this money? We are now talking about compensation. Oh, our people need compensation here, compensation here, compensation here. Nobody is looking at where is this money coming from. We have a budget where we can raise local revenues around 32, and we are looking at a budget where expenditure is around 57. Forget about the other 57. And all this is about borrowing. It is about begging.
In short, you agree with Trump?
You know, for every dark cloud, those who speak good English, like Honorable Mbide, there is a silver lining.
Just a sajabi.
Lydia, international freeze. Yeah.
I think the international is a wake-up call. For those who have been to be able to live within our means. And we should have very as the gang to appreciate the gang, having appreciate the gang, and would give us feedback, but also an ardent listener of the gang and on important national issues.
So rest in eternal
May
peace.
his soul rest in eternal peace. The government has accorded him an official, I think, on 9th of Feb. Next week was Saturday. That's the new arrangement. I don't know.
Martin Mugara, you're concluding, gang. And I've switched off Semoju's microphone so you don't irritate each other.
I think, well, it's of course we expected this of Trump. What is freezing going out of the US is around maybe $67 billion. But what is freezing going around within the US itself as foreign aid is around $3 trillion. And I think it's already a problem. People are in court and the rest. But we will adjust as a country, probably. It's important that we do in a scenario. But if you look at most of the places where this aid is going, it's actually to Israel and those very European countries. Very little of it. I had people saying that Uganda was getting around $1 billion annually. This has $80 million. It has never gone to even 700 million. How much? Yes, I'm telling you.
How much?
$670 million.
A lot of
Yes.
money for Uganda.
Yes, of course it is. And
lot of money.
I want to assure the Ugandans, as a government will adjust. Hopefully, we pray that it continues. But in a scenario where it doesn't, life goes on. And as a country, look for avenues of raising this money. But Semuju might stand probably on I don't know if I should go back to this on the court martial, and that's why there is more injustice going on. Let me tell you, if the court is no longer giving justice to Ugandans, any other way they can get justice is more relevant.
Yes. We will now advocate for mob justice.
But it's happening
in that mental frame.
It is happening
that
because the court is not giving justice.
You go on the street and lynch people.
As you receive the advice,
mental frame.
The court said the parliament must amend and have a good court. I thank you, all the listeners of the Capital Gang. Thank you, Star Cafe, for powering the gang. The appetites have been good. Honorable Mukasambide did not come with a chapati in his pocket. He has also partaken in Star Cafe goodies. Thank you, Minister Martin Mugara. Thank you, Honorable Lydia Wanyoto. Thank you, Namfi. Thank you, Honorable Mukasambide, Honorable Semuju, Honorable Katuntu. Thank you. I am Oscar Semwe Amsoke, and I shall see you next week.